Hello and welcome. This is Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World, and I am your host, Jim Phillips. It is through the application of ancient wisdom in our modern world that we gain a greater understanding and experience of the truth of who we are. Never has there been a time in the history of humanity when there was a greater need to understand this truth. It is this truth that will set us free. Before I begin today's episode, I want to invite you to subscribe to the Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World podcast at sacredstoriesmedia.com, where you can also listen to inspirational messages by my Sacred Stories colleagues. Additionally, if you'd like more information on my work, my message, and free downloads, please visit my personal website at www.livinginfullexpression.com. And lastly, I am so excited to finally announce that my book, The Key to Life, is now fully available at sacredstoriespublishing.com, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and booksellers around the world. Now let's get to today's episode. And I want to begin with a quote that I received during one of my early morning walks. And the quote is, "We cannot long for something for which we have not had the experience." We cannot long for something for which we have not had the experience. Now I have to say, of all the phrases that I've been given and shared, this one, for whatever reason, has generated the greatest response. For me, quite simply, it just means that anything for which we have a deep, heartfelt desire, we've already experienced it on some level at some point in time. The experience could have been in our current incarnation. It could have been a previous one. It could have been, and I believe especially in the case of love, it could be in the spiritual realm where we know and experience, and in fact, are love. So what we have is a desire to get back to that experience and expression of love, back to the experience of our true self. It could also be the knowing on a much deeper level of our connection to that which we know and experience as God, and our desire to live from that knowingness. I believe the purpose of life is the progressive realization of this longing to get back to the truth of who we are. And it's done through the choices we make and the events of life that are created specifically for that purpose. Life as we experience it is the process of becoming. It's the process of creation. Life brings to us what we most need and not necessarily what we most want. Yet in the end, we always experience what we most desire. I had the good fortune of being involved in a forthcoming movie that's entitled Becoming the Keys. That's due for release later this fall. In the movie, I'm one of 5 featured experts along with notable authors Don Miguel Ruiz, the author of The Four Agreements, and Daniel Brinkley, the author of Saved by the Light. And each of these authors have sold millions and millions of copies of their respective books. Well, after the filming of the segment in which I was to appear in the movie, I was asked by the producer if I wanted to appear in another segment with Don Miguel Ruiz and Daniel Brinkley, where I could ask them any question I wanted to ask. As you can imagine, of course, I was thrilled by the opportunity and immediately knew what I wanted to ask them. Honestly, it's a question I've wanted to ask someone who's had an NDE or a near-death experience for a really long time. And if you're not familiar with Daniel Brinkley, he's experienced 3 near-death experiences. And in fact, his initial near-death experience at the age of 25 is one of the most widely known and documented NDEs on record. So here I was sitting and talking with Don Miguel Ruiz and Daniel Brinkley, and this was just before filming began. And what I found was both men are just extremely kind. They're warm and they're generous. They've got an energy about them that is very inviting, yet it's intense. But it's in no way intimidating or uncomfortable. Well, we continued our conversation, and finally the cameras were set and the sound engineers were ready to roll. And then I heard the familiar call, and now, action. So I took a deep breath and I asked my question. Why are we here? Immediately, Daniel, who's a former Marine, responded in his loud voice and South Carolina Southern accent. And he said it with an even louder laugh. And he said, "We're here to have as much fun as possible." And he continued laughing. Well, needless to say, I was a little bit taken aback. Of all the answers that I might have expected and anticipated, I can assure you this was not one of them. Honestly, I was waiting for a deeply profound response. And what I got was, "We're here to have as much fun as possible." So I looked at Daniel and I repeated it back to him and I said, "So we're here to have as much fun as possible. That's it." And he said, "Yes." He said, "We're here to have as much fun as possible. We take ourselves and life way too seriously. We don't leave here with anything that we accumulate while we're here. We don't take whatever titles we give ourselves or what others might give us. We leave here as we came in, as the spiritual being that we are, the aspect of the divine that we are, and that's it. We're here to enjoy and to play and to experience and create. We're here to make the most of the opportunities we're given. I looked over at Don Miguel, and he was nodding his head in agreement, and then he spoke up. He said there's two aspects to each of us. There's the spiritual aspect and the physical, the human aspect. We're here to take care of each of them and to unite them. And it's in taking care of and honoring and respecting our physical beingness, our human aspect, that we provide the opportunity for the experience and expression of our spiritual aspect. And then they both looked at me, and Daniel said, "Why do you believe we're here?" I have to admit, I was taken completely off guard because I was deeply in a listening mode so that I could be as present as possible to their answers. I wasn't expecting to be asked the same question. But I took a deep breath, and I said, we're here as an aspect of the divine for the soul purpose, soul, S-O-U-L, of living in full expression of that which we are. It is in living in full expression that the divine is fully expressed. And as soon as I finished saying that, I became very emotional, to the point where I couldn't even speak. And I know when this happens to me that I'm experiencing the truth. And then Daniel said, let it go. Let it all out. He said, it's your heart opening and you're experiencing the truth. Well, I did let it out. And I did feel a sense of tremendous relief. See, life is about living in full expression. And it is in living in full expression that divine is fully expressed and the consciousness of the planet, the consciousness of each one of us is raised and expanded. We, humanity, we're here to allow for the full expression of the divine through us and all that we experience and in who we are being. Our purpose is that full expression experience of the divine through us, through the experiences created specifically for that purpose. Living in full expression is nothing more and nothing less than being true to oneself. And when we live in full expression, we are true to that which we are. We honor and respect who we know ourselves to be in every moment, that expression of the divine. However, when we're not in full expression, we're in self-denial. And when we're in self-denial, we're denying the divine its full expression and experience through us. When we're in self-denial, we deny the full experience and expression of all that we are, which is love and joy and peace and happiness, our very reasons for being. Living in full expression is allowing our authentic self, our divine self, to be seen, enjoyed, embraced, experienced, and appreciated by all. But more importantly, it's about our accepting, enjoying, experiencing, and appreciating ourselves for who we are, and are on the process of being. Now, a huge component of this whole process is allowing. We're here to allow life to unfold perfectly and effortlessly. We're to allow ourselves to be expressed and experienced in whatever form of expression it desires. In other words, what we have to do is get out of our own way and allow life to present to us all that it offers for that fullest expression and experience of ourself. I believe that everything we desire and require from life to live in full expression is now fully available. It's always been fully available, and as far as I can tell, will always be fully available. One of the paradoxes of life is that regardless of what life presents, it is always what is needed in the moment for this fullest experience and expression of self. I'm sure you're familiar with the term free will. Free will is one of the greatest gifts we've been given, yet we don't readily exercise it, at least not in a conscious way. I want you to consider for a moment why you would deny your full experience and expression of that which you are, or that which we are, which is divinity. What is it that holds us back? Is it our worries and concerns? Is it our fear for what others might say or do towards us if we live in full expression? Or is it simply our fear of how truly powerful we are? And yet free will says we can do, we can be, we can say anything we want at any time. Nothing prevents the fullest expression and experience of self other than the thoughts and beliefs we hold about who we believe we are and what we believe is possible, especially for us. A phrase that I received during one of my early morning walks, I believe, puts this into perspective. We live in an illusion of who we believe we are, while simultaneously living in the illusion of who we believe we are not. When we trust who we are and we allow the experience and expression of this truth, we offer the greatest gift to one another possible, and that's the gift of knowing ourselves as divinity. Of course, this brings up the question once again, who am I? Is who I believe myself to be the truth of who I am? Are we the roles that we play, or the things that we do in life? Or is who we are what allows us to do what we do and play the roles that we play? When I consider these questions personally, I think in terms of stripping away all the thoughts and beliefs I hold of who I think and believe I am. And when I strip away any titles, any accomplishments, any wealth I might have, any of the worries, concerns, any of my perceived shortcomings, any roles I have played or continue to play, I have to consider and ask who or what is left. When we look in the mirror, who or what looks back? When we consider these questions, who or what is considering these questions? And to take it one level deeper, who or what is thinking about the fact that we are thinking about these questions? Again, I believe the purpose of life is this progressive realization of this truth of who we are. This progressive realization comes through the events and experiences of life and our self within the context of life's events. What I found through my progressive realization, this process we call life, is that today what I know to be true, tomorrow might not be. By being unattached to what I believe, I remain open and receptive to what is or might be in this moment. However, I'm also aware of the fact that at any moment, new information, a new experience, or a greater understanding might be presented that changes what I've held as true to this moment. I'm then available to allow or incorporate this new truth into my beliefs and understanding, and I can now live from this new knowing until even greater truths are presented. By allowing for this fluidity of truth, I know I come ever closer to the truth, and therefore can live more fully in the truth of who I am. Now, I want to explain that there's a difference, in my opinion, between the purpose of life and one's life's purpose. They do sound similar, but there is a difference. The purpose of life, our existence in human form, why we're here, is for the fullest experience and expression of the divine through us in our fullest experience and expression of self. Our life's purpose is to express and experience the divine through our self-expression in whatever form of expression we choose and create. Another way of saying this is humanity is one of the vehicles through which the divine is experienced and expressed. As I journey through my life, coaching individuals and speaking with different groups of people, invariably I'm asked questions about life's purpose. I want to share a few of those with you. The first question, and this is the most often asked, do I have a life purpose? Well, the answer is quite simple, yes. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Our overall life purpose is the expression of the divine through our experiences and expression of self in as wide a range of experiences as possible. And this is done through the many different personalities we have in many different lifetimes. As we fully experience and express ourself, the divine is fully expressed. Additionally, as each of us are in the process of experiencing and expressing ourselves, we play roles in the life experiences of those around us. And this is so they too can experience and express their self as fully and completely as possible. Another question I get is, well, how do I know if I'm fulfilling my life's purpose? Again, the answer is simple. You're fulfilling your life's purpose because you're here. There is no right or wrong way to do this. Every experience we have in each lifetime, including those we might label as wrong or bad, is another experience and expression of ourself. Our purpose is to have the widest range of experiences of self as possible as we remember who we truly are. And the last question I want to share is who I am or what I do relevant? Am I relevant? Is what I bring to those around me and the world relevant? When I'm asked this question, I respond with another question. Well, relevant in relation to what? This more often comes down to whether or not a person believes their life has meaning and benefits others. Do they make a difference? What does the world gain by their presence? Well, to me, these questions take us back to the real issue of the value we place upon ourselves, the love we have for the self, and the trust we have in ourselves versus the opinions and values we accept about ourselves placed on us by others. This again takes us back to what we believe to be the purpose of life. Again, for me, it's the progressive realization of the truth of who we are while living in full expression of that truth in each ensuing moment. This is the longing that we find so difficult to satisfy. It's the longing to get back to the truth of who we are, to know and experience and express this truth. We've all had glimpses of it throughout life, which is what keeps us moving towards that truth. And yes, the purpose of life is just as Daniel said to me on the set of Becoming the Keys. We are here to have as much fun as possible. I want to thank you for your time today. You have many opportunities towards which you can invest your precious time, and yet you've chosen to spend this time with me. And I want you to know how greatly appreciated it is. If you have any questions or comments on today's podcast, or you have a suggestion for a future podcast, please email me at jim@prosperitybydesign.com. I look forward to continuing our conversation as we bring more ancient wisdom into our modern world that will change not only our personal lives, but the world as we know it into a more peaceful, more loving, more kind, and joyful experience for all. Until next time, I'm Jim Phillips, and you've been listening to Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World.